Well, Duke is the number one seed in the East in the NCAA tournament. Here to talk about the Blue Devils' path to a national championship is Steve Wiseman of the Raleigh News and Observer. Steve, I'm a little curious. When the bracket came out and Duke was not the number one overall seed, were you surprised at all a little bit by that, just given the way that Auburn closed out the year, losing 3 of 4?
I was a little bit because of that finish. I mean, Auburn had way more quad one wins than Duke because the SEC was so strong this year. So that part of it didn't surprise me. But I thought because of the way they finished and the way Duke finished, winning 11 in a row, 27 out of 28, and more importantly, having the head-to-head win over Auburn from back in December. Now that was at home, obviously, so that people take away that. But the fact of the matter is, it happened. They beat Auburn head-to-head. So I thought Duke made a pretty good case to be the overall number one. In the end, it's kind of splitting hairs, and I think they're happy to be going to Newark, which is where they'd be going anyway, had they been the overall number one. But yeah, they were definitely in the conversation by winning the ACC without Cooper Flag too. That even showed it's a much stronger team than maybe we thought.
Well, you just kind of segued right into my next question. Duke goes to Charlotte shorthanded and wins the ACC tournament title. What did you learn about this Duke team this weekend?
Well, that they can handle adversity, which they haven't had a lot of adversity this year. They've had some injuries along the way, right? Malik Brown's been hurt 2 or 3 times now, but when you lose the ACC Player of the Year, and if we go back to 2019, when Zion Williamson got hurt, Duke did not finish the regular season in a strong fashion because he wasn't in there. They lost both games to Carolina. They ended up winning the ACC because he came back. I'm just making that comparison because without Cooper Flag, this team played really well, and I know the Carolina game was closer than they wanted to be at the end, but to be able to get out to a 24-point lead showed how connected they are defensively, how well they're playing offensively now, shooting the ball well, sharing the ball, getting good shots. Just so much strength on this team, so much depth to do all this without Cooper Flag really showed just this team. It impressed me even more than I was already impressed with in the way they played in the regular season.
Well, we've been talking about Cooper Flag all season long. He certainly was the talk of the ACC tournament, spraining that left ankle. What's the expectation for him as it relates to March Madness? Do you expect him to play this first weekend?
I certainly do. Yeah, everything I've heard from the people at Duke is that he's going to be fine and he'll be able to play. I think he'll be able to play Friday if they wanted to, and whether he will or not, that's up to if they want to chance it. I mean, they're going to be playing a 16 seed again. They should be able to win without him in that game, and I think that'll depend upon what happens when he gets back on the court this week in practice. If he has any residual swelling or whatever it may be, maybe they hold him out one more game. But no, I think if they wanted to push it, he could have played probably in Charlotte, and they just didn't need him to because there was they have bigger prizes in mind, and that's what this is all about.
He's not the only person who suffered an injury in Charlotte. Of course, Malik Brown re-dislocating that shoulder, just a heartbreaking injury for him. People wondering as well, like, should we expect to see him at all in March Madness, or do you think his season is unfortunately over?
Well, they haven't decided that yet for sure,
Mhm.
but I think it's obviously a longer shot for him than for Cooper because of what you talked about, the re-injury and the way I was in Charlottesville when he first hurt the shoulder, and it was a non-contact play. He just kind of reached and tapped the ball away, and it popped out of his socket. And it kind of seemed like that happened a little bit again against Georgia Tech. It wasn't like there was a major collision that caused it to pop out, and that's where you get real concerns about the stability of that shoulder. I know they thought it was stable again, and then that didn't work out. He played well against Carolina. Obviously, he was a big factor in them winning that game in Chapel Hill to end the regular season, shooting a couple 3 pointers, which we hadn't seen. That was really good for him. But yeah, it's longer. I would be surprised. I don't think he'll play this weekend. I think it's going to be a longer term for him, and that's an adjustment Duke's going to have to make. But they did it with Patrick Gongba playing a lot in the middle in place of Malik Brown and being that backup to Kamal Maluach, and that really worked out well.
Really impressive what we saw from them in Charlotte. As we look ahead to the NCAA tournament, they of course start here in Raleigh. We still don't know yet their opponent for that first round. It's going to be American or Mount St. Mary's. Do you feel like there's anything you have to see out of Duke in that first game, or is it just, hey, we're going to win and we're going to move on to the round of 32?
I just want to see if Cooper's on the court, if he's in the starting lineup. That's really it. And the pregame warmups, that's what we're looking at, right? Will he be in uniform? Will he be out there? I guess the practice the day before we'll kind of get to see that too. But this is a team that they shouldn't. I mean, I know 16s have beaten ones.
Mhm.
It's happened. I don't think that's going to happen to this team. Didn't look like it. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting through healthy. That's the big thing, and getting ready for the next game against either Baylor or Mississippi State.
Kind of looking elsewhere in the bracket, I felt like this was a really favorable draw for the Blue Devils. Yes, you have Alabama as the 2 seed, Wisconsin as the 3 seed, Arizona as the 4 seed. So there is some plenty of offense between those teams and on the east side of the bracket. But what did you think of their overall draw? Who concerns you the most should Duke run into them?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they play. Obviously, Baylor has Jeremy Roach, old friend Jeremy Roach, who played for Duke the last 4 years. In the second game, that could happen. Arizona, they've already played and beaten this year on the road. That would be the Sweet 16 matchup if the chalk holds true. Caleb Love will get one more crack at Duke. We haven't really seen enough of that. But then, I mean, Alabama's the one that jumps out. And I know they're the number 2 seed, they should, but they were a Final Four team last year. They're an incredible offensive team. That'll be such a great matchup with Duke's great, lockdown defense trying to shut down Alabama. So that'll be an incredible Elite Eight game in Newark if we get that one.
Is Alabama, like, if you were to put money on it and you had to put money on a team that's gonna prevent Duke from getting to the Final Four, is Alabama the team that you would put the dough on?
I would because of their track record in March. They went to the Final Four last year,
Yeah.
and so they have players that have done that. Mark Sears was part of that team last year. Jaron Stevenson, again, a local guy from Chapel Hill area. Good for him being in the tournament again. So yes, I just think they've been tested more than anybody else. They've played all these great teams in the SEC and done really well against them. So we know we can believe what they have produced because they've done it against the SEC this year, which is far and away the best conference in America. So yeah, Alabama's the one I'd be most concerned about.
It seems like Duke is on a fast track to the Final Four. If that holds true, and you look at the first 3 years of what Jon Scheyer has done at Duke, 2 ACC tournament championships, potentially a Final Four appearance for the Blue Devils. I mean, what does that say about just the program in his hands? I feel like we've kind of already answered that a little bit in his tenure, but if he can do that, what would that say to his career as the Duke Blue Devils head coach?
Yeah, getting to the Final Four would really cement the the success level of the plan that Coach K put into place, the succession plan. That was criticized. He was taking a victory lap or whatever he may be, but it was to set John up for success, and I don't think you can argue that it's worked. But getting to the Final Four would remove any doubt because he needs to kind of do that to say, okay, this program is where it usually is, which is getting to the Final Four on a regular basis. And so they're certainly in place to do that this year. They have another great class coming in next year, but the fact that what John did in the offseason to rebuild this roster around Cooper Flag, that the people they told goodbye to, frankly, we mentioned Jeremy Roach earlier. That's somebody that could have been back in part of this team, and they decided that they wanted that space available to get Sion James and Mason Gillis and Malik Brown and the transfers that have come in to make them an older, more battle tested team. And everything's everything has worked to this point. They just have to get it done and get to San Antonio. And then whether they win it all or not, I mean, you want to win it all, obviously, right? You've got the team to do that. But if they just get to San Antonio and get to the Final Four, that will be another step beyond what they've done in the first 2 years. And so you're looking at a guy that's already won, what is it, 85 games in 3 years, 2 ACC championships. I think he's pretty successful. I think this program has worked.
I think just a little bit. Now, I have to ask you this, though. I have heard some Dukes fans say that if they don't get to the Final Four this year, they're going to say that this season was a failure. Is that fair to say?
Well, uh, I guess it is. I mean, they have their standards, and it's right. I mean, that's it. And this is a superstar team. And you look back at the missed opportunities in the last few years of Coach K's tenure. I think he would say 2019 was a successful season. They won the ACC, but they sure won. That was a missed opportunity to get a national championship or at least get to the Final Four. Zion Williamson's team, I'm talking about, of course, and that one didn't get through. And the year before, Marvin Bagley's team lost in the Elite Eight to Kansas in overtime. You want to hang some more banners. So I do think that if they don't make the Final Four this year, it's going to open up John to criticism. because he will not have gotten there. And that's the ultimate stamp on this succession program has worked, right? So I think it's worked no matter what, but I agree with them and that the Final Four is the one they really need to get that this year.
Whew, I mean, no pressure for the Blue Devils. Steve, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Glad to be with you.